The hum of your room surrounds you now, a gentle, almost imperceptible vibration. The faint flicker of light through your eyelids, red, orange, darkness. The quiet stillness that wraps around you like a blanket, hiding 1,000 details you never notice. Right now, in this very moment, you are seeing. But are you observing? There is a difference, a profound difference. One that separates the ordinary from the extraordinary, the distracted from the awakened, the sleeper from the genius. Your eyes are open to the world, but how much of it actually reaches you? How much passes through the filter of your awareness and gets lost, forgotten, dissolved into the background noise of existence? What would happen if you truly saw the world not through your eyes alone, but through awareness itself? What if observation wasn't something your eyes did, but something your entire being could become? Tonight, we're going to explore something ancient and yet completely forgotten. A superpower hiding in plain sight. The hidden ability that united Leonardo da Vinci, Sherlock Holmes, Charles Darwin, and every great mind throughout history. Not intelligence, not talent, not even creativity. Observation. The art of seeing what's actually there. Not what you expect, not what you assume, but what is. And perhaps, just perhaps, by the end of this journey, you'll discover that the greatest mystery isn't out there in the world. It's in how you've been looking at it all along. So settle in, breathe, let your body sink deeper into comfort, and prepare to see, for perhaps the first time,
the forgotten superpower. Once upon a time, observation meant survival. Your ancestors woke each morning and read the world like a book written in shadows and light. The bent grass meant an animal had passed. The distant clouds gathering on the horizon meant rain by nightfall. The way the birds fell silent meant danger approaching. They noticed everything, because if they didn't, they died. Their eyes tracked movement across vast savannas. Their ears caught the snap of a twig 100 yards away. Their skin felt the shift in the wind that meant a storm was coming. They lived in a state of constant, heightened awareness. Observation wasn't a skill. It was life itself. But something changed. Slowly, over thousands of years, as we built walls and cities and screens, we traded that ancient awareness for something else. Convenience, comfort, constant stimulation. And in that trade, we lost something profound. We forgot how to see. The modern mind is drowning in information. Thousands of images flash before your eyes every single day. Notifications, messages, videos, news, an endless stream of sensory input pouring into your consciousness like a waterfall. And your brain, remarkable as it is, has learned to survive this deluge through a simple strategy. Ignore most of it. Right now, your brain is filtering out approximately 99% of what your senses are actually detecting. The feeling of your tongue resting in your mouth, the pressure of your clothes against your skin, the subtle sounds in the room around you, the temperature variations across your body. Your brain has decided these things don't matter, so it hides them from you. This is called selective attention, and it's both a blessing and a curse. A blessing because without it, you'd be overwhelmed by the sheer volume of sensory data, Every moment would be an avalanche of information. You couldn't function. You couldn't think. You couldn't survive. But a curse, because in filtering out the noise, your brain also filters out the signal, the subtle details, the quiet patterns, the hidden connections that, if noticed, could change everything. You walk through your life in a kind of trance, a waking sleep, moving from task to task, place to place, moment to moment, barely present, barely here. Perhaps the greatest illusion is believing we already see everything there is to see. But what if that's not true? What if reality is far richer, far stranger, far more beautiful than the thin slice of your attention allows you to experience? What if genius isn't about having a better brain, but about using the one you have differently? What if the superpower of observation is still there, dormant, waiting to be awakened? And what if tonight you begin to remember how to see?
The observer's eye. Let me tell you about a man who saw the world differently. His name was Leonardo da Vinci, and he was obsessed. Not with painting, not with invention, not with genius itself. He was obsessed with noticing. Late at night, in his workshop in Florence, Leonardo would light a single candle, and then he would sit and watch for hours. He watched the way the flame danced, the way shadows pooled and shifted on the wall, the way light bent around objects, the way smoke curled upward in spiraling patterns. Most people would see a candle. Leonardo saw a universe. He filled notebook after notebook with observations, water flowing over rocks, the way fabric folded, the precise angle of a bird's wing in flight, the muscles beneath human skin, the patterns in tree bark, the spiral of a snail's shell. He didn't just look. He observed. He studied. He questioned. Why does water create those specific ripples? What force makes smoke spiral? How does light create that exact shadow? Why do birds fly in that particular pattern? His notebooks contain over 7,000 pages of observations, sketches, questions, measurements, all from simply noticing what was already there.
And here's what's remarkable. Many of his observations were hundreds of years ahead of science. He understood fluid dynamics before the equations existed. He sketched the human heart with anatomical accuracy that wouldn't be matched for centuries. He saw patterns in nature that scientists are only now confirming. Not because he was smarter than everyone else, but because he looked longer, deeper, more carefully. Genius begins not with brilliance, but with noticing. Imagine Leonardo in that candlelit room, the rest of Florence asleep, just him and the dancing flame. Most people would have seen enough in 30 seconds, but Leonardo, he could watch for hours and still find new details. The way the blue part of the flame is hotter than the yellow, the exact shape of the shadow's edge, the rhythm of the flicker, the play of light on different surfaces. He was training his mind not to be smarter, but to be present, to be aware, to truly see. And you can do this too. Right now, in this moment, choose something near you. Anything. A shadow on the wall. The way light comes through a window. Your own hand. Look at it. Really look. Not for 1 second, not for 5 seconds, but for a full minute. Notice what you've never noticed before. The tiny details, the subtle variations, the hidden complexity in what seemed simple. How many lines are in the palm of your hand? What exact color is the shadow on your wall? How does light interact with the texture of the nearest surface? You've seen these things 1,000 times, but have you ever truly observed them? This is the observer's eye, the skill that transformed Leonardo from a talented artist into a genius. And it's not reserved for Renaissance masters. It's available to you, right now, this moment. All it requires is a simple choice, to look and keep looking until you see what you've never seen before.
The brain attic. Sherlock Holmes once said something remarkable to Dr. Watson. He said, "The mind is like an attic, a small room, finite space, and you have to be careful what you put in it. Because once the attic is full of junk, there's no room for what matters." Holmes refused to fill his mind with irrelevant information. He didn't care about literature. He didn't know that the Earth orbited the Sun. When Watson told him, shocked, Holmes shrugged and said, "What does it matter? Now that I know, I'll do my best to forget it." This seems absurd at first. Ignorance by choice? But Holmes understood something profound about attention and awareness. The mind has limited space. Not in terms of memory storage, but in terms of active attention, what you can hold present, what you can notice, what you can observe. And if your attic is cluttered with random facts, endless worries, recycled thoughts, and mental noise, there's no room for observation, no space for awareness, no capacity to truly see. Think about your own mind right now. If you could open it up like an attic and look inside, what would you find? Old conversations you keep replaying? Worries about tomorrow? Regrets about yesterday? That song stuck on repeat? The mental list of things to do? The cascade of thoughts about thoughts about thoughts? Your attic is full, overflowing, and in all that clutter, awareness gets lost. Imagine your mind as a quiet room, spacious, clean, still. Only the essential thoughts remain. No clutter, no noise, just presence.
This is what Holmes trained himself to achieve. A mind so clear, so uncluttered, that when he observed something, there was space for it to register, to be seen, to be understood. He would walk into a room and notice everything. The mud on someone's shoe that indicated which part of London they'd come from. The callus on a finger that revealed their profession. The tiny details everyone else missed because their minds were too full of noise to receive them. But here's the truth. This isn't magic. It's not genius. It's curation. Holmes deliberately chose what he allowed into his mind. He protected his attic. He kept it clear. And that clearness created capacity for observation. You can do this too. Not by forgetting the Earth orbits the Sun, but by becoming aware of what fills your mind and consciously choosing what stays. Do you need to replay that conversation from 3 days ago for the 100th time? Does it serve you? Does it help you see more clearly? Do you need to carry that worry about tomorrow into this moment? Does it improve your awareness? Does it help you notice what's actually here? Do you need every passing thought to become a whole story, a whole emotional journey, a whole distraction from the present? Or could you let it pass? Could you keep your attic clear? Could you create space for observation?
Try this now. Take a breath. Notice the thoughts in your mind. Not to judge them, not to push them away, but just to see them clearly. These thoughts They're like furniture in your attic. Some of it you chose carefully. Some of it just accumulated over time. And some of it you didn't even know was there. But now you do. Now you can see it. And seeing it, you have a choice. What do you want to keep? What deserves space in your attic? And what can you let go of to make room for something more essential? Observation, awareness, the art of seeing what's actually there. This is the gift of a clear mind. Not emptiness, but spaciousness. Room for reality to reveal itself. And as you lie here now, perhaps you can feel your mind beginning to clear. Thoughts settling. Noise fading. Space opening. Your attic becoming quiet. Ready to receive. Ready to see.
Awareness and illusion. Let me tell you about an experiment, a famous one, simple, but unsettling. Researchers showed participants a short video. In the video, two teams of people passed basketballs back and forth. One team wore white shirts, the other wore black. The participants were asked to count how many times the team in white passed the ball. Simple task. Focused attention. Count the passes. And at the end, the researchers asked, how many passes did you count? Most people got it right. 15, 16. Close enough. Then the researchers asked a different question. Did you notice the gorilla? And most people responded with confusion. What gorilla? The researchers played the video again, but this time without the counting task, just watching. And there it was, impossible to miss now. A person in a gorilla suit walks directly into the center of the frame, faces the camera, beats its chest, and walks off. For a full 9 seconds, right in the middle of the screen. Obvious, unmistakable. And yet, more than half the participants never saw it. Not because their eyes didn't receive the image, but because their attention was elsewhere. This is called inattentional blindness, and it reveals something profound and slightly terrifying about human consciousness. You don't see what's there. You see what you're paying attention to. Everything else might as well not exist. Right now, before I mentioned it, were you aware of the feeling of your feet? The exact temperature of the air against your face? The subtle sounds in the background? They were there. Your ears heard them. Your skin felt them. But until I directed your attention, they were invisible, present but unnoticed. This is the paradox of perception. We think we see reality, but what we actually see is a tiny, curated selection that our attention has chosen to illuminate. Everything else exists in a kind of darkness, present but unseen. There's another illusion, even more unsettling. It's called change blindness. Researchers showed people two nearly identical pictures, the same scene, but one small detail was different. A color change, an object moved, something added or removed. The pictures flashed back and forth. Picture 1, picture 2, picture 1, picture 2. And people were asked to spot the difference. Sometimes it took minutes, sometimes they never found it. Even though the change was obvious when she saw it, a bright red object turning blue, a person's shirt changing color, a building appearing or disappearing. We assume we see everything in our field of vision, but we don't. We see the general gist, the big picture, and our brain fills in the rest with assumptions and expectations, which means we're constantly walking through a world we don't actually see, a reality obscured by the limitations of our own attention. If the mind creates its own blind spots, what else might it be hiding from us? What are you not noticing right now? In your life? In your relationships? In yourself? What gorilla is walking through the center of your experience while you count basketball passes? This isn't meant to be frightening. It's meant to be awakening. Because once you understand that you don't automatically see everything, you can begin to train your awareness differently. You can learn to notice the gorilla. You can expand your attention. You can see what you've been missing. And this is where observation becomes more than a skill. It becomes a practice, a discipline, a way of being. Mindfulness, in its truest sense, is not about relaxation. It's about seeing clearly, paying attention, being present to what actually is, not what you assume or expect. And the more you practice this, the more the invisible becomes visible, the more the overlooked becomes obvious, the more reality reveals itself in its full, rich, complex detail. Try this now without moving. Notice 5 things you haven't noticed yet. 5 small details in your immediate environment. A shadow, a sound, a texture, a subtle sensation in your body. Something so small, so overlooked that it's been invisible until now.
Can you find 5? This is observation, not passive seeing, but active, conscious noticing. And the remarkable thing, once you notice something, you can't unnotice it. It becomes part of your awareness, part of your world. Something that was invisible becomes permanently visible. This is how you expand your reality, not by going somewhere else, but by seeing more of where you already are. The gorilla was always there. You just weren't looking. But now, you are.
How geniuses see differently.
Charles Darwin spent 8 years studying barnacles. 8 years with one type of creature, looking at their shells, their structures, the tiny variations between species, the small adaptations that distinguished one barnacle from another. Most people would have spent 8 minutes, maybe 8 hours if they were particularly interested. But Darwin, 8 years. Why? Because he understood something most people never learn. The secret isn't in seeing more things. It's in seeing one thing more deeply. Darwin trained his eye through relentless, patient observation. He looked at barnacles until he saw patterns no one else had noticed, variations no one else had recorded, connections no one else had made. And that training, that discipline of deep seeing, prepared him to notice something far more significant, the subtle evidence of evolution, the tiny variations between finches on different islands, the clues hidden in plain sight that would revolutionize biology forever. He wasn't born more intelligent. He simply looked longer. Isaac Newton saw an apple fall. Everyone sees apples fall. Thousands of apples every autumn. Unremarkable, ordinary. But Newton observed. He didn't just see the apple fall. He saw it differently. He asked a question no one had asked. Why does it fall? What force pulls it down? And does that same force extend beyond the earth?
One observation, one question, and suddenly gravity made sense. The orbits of planets, the movement of tides, all from seeing an apple fall and refusing to let it be ordinary. Elon Musk has a technique he calls first principles thinking, but at its core, it's about observation. Looking at what actually is, not what everyone assumes. Everyone assumed rockets were expensive because building rockets is expensive. Musk observed differently. He looked at the raw materials, the actual components. He saw that most of the cost came from throwing the rockets away after one use. What if you didn't throw them away? What if they landed and could be reused? Everyone said it was impossible, but Musk had observed what was actually there, not what people believed was there. And SpaceX was born. Sherlock Holmes walks into a room and knows where the person has been, what they do for work, whether they're left-handed, and what they had for breakfast. Not through magic, through observation. He notices the mud on their shoes, the specific color and texture that indicates a particular neighborhood. He sees the callus on their finger, the exact position that suggests a profession. He observes the coffee stain on their collar, the angle and size that reveals how they tilted their cup. Details, small, invisible to most, but luminous to Holmes, because he trained himself to notice. And here's what's remarkable about all these examples. These weren't people born with special abilities. They were people who developed a special practice. The practice of observation. Darwin didn't wake up able to see evolution. He trained his eye through 8 years of barnacles. Newton didn't intuitively understand gravity. He cultivated a questioning awareness that refused to take anything for granted. Musk didn't naturally think in first principles. He developed the discipline of looking past assumptions to see what actually is. And Holmes? Well, he might be fiction, but his method is real, and it's trainable.
What made these minds different wasn't their intelligence. It was their attention, their patience, their willingness to look at something ordinary and see it as extraordinary. You have the same capacity, the same potential, the same eyes and brain and awareness. The difference is practice, discipline, choice. Choosing to notice, choosing to observe, choosing to see what's actually there instead of what you expect. Right now, in your life, there are patterns waiting to be noticed, connections waiting to be made, insights waiting to emerge. Not out there in some distant place, but right here, in the ordinary details of your everyday existence. The way certain situations repeat, the subtle behaviors you've never quite named, the small signals that, if noticed, would explain so much. But you have to look. You have to observe. You have to give your attention the way Darwin gave his to barnacles, the way Newton gave his to falling apples, the way Holmes gave his to every detail. And the gift, the profound gift, is that observation doesn't just reveal the world, it reveals you, the patterns in your thinking, the habits in your behavior, the assumptions you carry without knowing, the blind spots that shape your entire experience. To see the world like a genius, you must first learn to see it all. And that begins with one simple choice. Look. Notice. Observe. Not for a moment, but as a practice, a discipline, a way of being. The geniuses weren't born different. They simply chose to see and kept choosing every day for their entire lives. And so can you.
The science of seeing. Let's talk about what happens in your brain when you observe something deeply. Your brain is not a passive recorder. It's an active interpreter. a storyteller, constantly constructing your experience of reality based on tiny fragments of information. Right now, light is hitting your retina, millions of photons, transformed into electrical signals, racing along your optic nerve, arriving in the visual cortex at the back of your brain. But here's what's remarkable. Only about 10% of the information in your visual cortex comes from your eyes. The other 90%? That comes from your brain itself, from memory, from expectation, from prediction. Your brain is constantly guessing what you're seeing, filling in the gaps, creating a coherent picture from incomplete data. This is why you can read text with scrambled letters. Your brain predicts what should be there. This is why you sometimes see faces in clouds or patterns in randomness. Your brain is designed to find meaning even when it might not exist. But this predictive power has a shadow side. It means you often don't see what's actually there. You see what you expect to be there, what you assume, what fits your existing mental models. And this is where observation becomes powerful, because conscious observation interrupts the automatic prediction. It forces your brain to actually look, to gather new data, to update its models. When you observe deeply, something shifts in your neural networks. Your attention activates the prefrontal cortex, the executive control center, the part of your brain responsible for conscious, deliberate awareness. And when the prefrontal cortex engages, it does something crucial. It suppresses the default mode network.
The default mode network is the system that runs when you're on autopilot, daydreaming, mind-wandering, lost in thought. It's the voice narrating your life, planning the future, rehashing the past. It's useful, but it also creates a veil between you and direct experience. When the default mode network is dominant, you're living in your head, not in the world. Observation switches this off. It brings you into direct contact with reality, present, here, now. And something else happens, something beautiful. When you notice something novel, something unexpected, something that surprises you, your brain releases dopamine. Dopamine is often called the reward chemical, but that's not quite right. It's more accurately the anticipation chemical, the learning chemical, the curiosity chemical. When dopamine floods your system, your brain becomes more plastic, more moldable, more capable of forming new connections. You learn faster, remember better, see more clearly. This is why observation feels good, not in an excited way, but in a subtle, satisfying way. The pleasure of noticing, the quiet joy of discovery. And the more you practice observation, the more your brain gets rewarded for noticing, which makes you notice more, which brings more dopamine, which makes your brain even more attentive. It's a beautiful feedback loop, a virtuous cycle. Observation, training your brain to observe better. But there's another layer, something even more profound. Your brain has what neuroscientists call salience networks. These are the systems that determine what's important, what deserves attention, what matters. And here's the key. These networks are trainable. They're shaped by what you pay attention to.
If you spend your day scrolling through social media, your brain learns that novel, shocking, emotionally charged content is salient, important, worthy of attention. If you spend your days in deep work, focused on complex problems, your brain learns that sustained attention and deep thinking are salient. And if you spend your days observing, noticing details, paying attention to the subtle and overlooked, your brain learns that observation itself is important. Your attention becomes your tool for sculpting your brain, for training your awareness, for determining what kind of reality you experience. This is not metaphorical. This is literal neuroscience. What you pay attention to changes the physical structure of your brain. It strengthens certain neural pathways and weakens others. It makes certain perceptions easier and others harder. You are training yourself every moment, every choice of attention, every act of observation or distraction. And the remarkable thing, once you understand this, you realize you have more power than you thought. Your attention is the flashlight in the darkness, and you decide where to shine it. Shine it on anxiety and worry. Your brain learns the world is threatening. Shine it on gratitude and beauty. Your brain learns the world is rich with goodness. Shine it on novelty and curiosity. Your brain learns the world is endlessly interesting. And shine it on observation, patient, deep, sustained observation. And your brain learns to see, truly see, with clarity and awareness and presence. This is the science of seeing, not just optical, but neurological, psychological, the literal reshaping of your consciousness through the choice of where you place your attention. And the gift, the profound gift, is that this is always available to you. You don't need special equipment. You don't need years of training. You don't need to be a genius.
You just need to choose, right now, this moment, to observe, to notice, to see. And your brain will respond. It will change. It will adapt. It will become what you practice. So what will you practice? Distraction or observation? The choice, as always, is yours.
Practices for observation. Now let's talk about how you actually do this, how you train observation, how you develop the observer's eye. Not through some mystical process, but through simple, practical, doable exercises. Small practices that, done consistently, transform how you see. Let me walk you through 7 techniques, not as a list to memorize, but as invitations, gentle practices you can weave into your daily life. The sensory awareness ritual. Before you sleep tonight, and every night after, do this. Notice one thing from each sense. One thing you see, maybe it's the shadow on your ceiling, the texture of your blanket, the way light softly glows through your window. One thing you hear, the hum of electricity, the distant sound of traffic, your own breathing. The silence itself, which isn't really silence at all if you listen closely. One thing you feel, the weight of your body pressing into the mattress, the temperature of the air on your skin, the subtle sensation of your heart beating. One thing you smell, even if it's faint, the scent of your pillow, the residue of your day, the particular smell of your room that you stop noticing. One thing you taste, even if it's just the inside of your mouth, the lingering flavor of your last drink, the taste of your own breath. 5 things, one from each sense, noticed deeply, fully, presently. This takes 2 minutes, maybe 3. But in those minutes, you're training something profound. You're practicing presence. You're cultivating awareness. You're teaching your brain that observation matters. Do this every night. Make it a ritual, as consistent as brushing your teeth, and watch how it changes your relationship with awareness. Detail mapping. When you walk somewhere tomorrow, anywhere, the store, the park, your own hallway, play this game. Notice reflections. How many can you spot? Light bouncing off surfaces, your face in a window, the sky mirrored in a puddle. Reflections you've walked past 1,000 times without seeing. Notice sounds, not just the obvious ones, but the layers, the texture of sound. How many distinct sounds can you identify? 3? 5?
10. Notice colors. Not just red or blue, but the exact shade. The way sunlight changes the color of a wall. The subtle variations in green leaves. The 1,000 colors hiding in what you thought was just brown or gray. Make it a game. How many details can you map? How much can you notice that you've never noticed before? And here's the key. Don't rush. Walk slower than usual. Give yourself time to see, to observe, to receive the world as it actually is. This transforms walking from a way to get somewhere into a practice of awareness. And the more you do it, the more you'll notice you start seeing these details even when you're not trying. The pattern notebook. Get a small notebook or use your phone. Doesn't matter. What matters is this. Every day, record one new pattern you noticed. Patterns are everywhere. In behavior, in nature, in systems, in yourself. Maybe you notice that every Tuesday you feel more tired. A pattern in your energy. Maybe you notice that a certain type of conversation always leaves you drained. A pattern in relationships. Maybe you notice that clouds before rain have a specific look, a pattern in weather. Maybe you notice that you reach for your phone when you feel bored, a pattern in your own behavior. One pattern, every day, written down, noticed. This trains your brain to look for patterns, to see connections, to understand systems. And over time, you'll start seeing patterns you never imagined. Patterns that explain things, that reveal how the world actually works. Darwin saw patterns in barnacles. Newton saw patterns in falling objects. You can see patterns in your own life. And seeing them, you can work with them, change them, use them.
The 5-second rule of curiosity. This one is simple but transformative. When something happens, pause for 5 seconds before reacting. Just observe. Someone says something that irritates you. Pause. 5 seconds. Notice the feeling. Where is it in your body? What does it actually feel like? What thoughts arise? You see something beautiful. Pause. 5 seconds. Don't immediately move on. Stay with it. Observe it. Let it fully register. Something surprises you. Pause. 5 seconds. Notice your reaction, the physical sensations, the mental response, the impulse to act. 5 seconds. That's all. But in those 5 seconds, you're creating space between stimulus and response. You're observing instead of reacting. You're present instead of automatic. And this small practice, just 5 seconds, changes everything. It turns you from someone who experiences life to someone who observes it, who sees it, who understands it.
The silence exercise. Once a day, sit in silence for 5 minutes. No phone, no music, no distraction. Just you and silence. But here's the practice. Don't try to make your mind silent. That's impossible and frustrating. Instead, observe what arises. Notice thoughts as they appear. Don't judge them. Don't engage with them. Just watch them like clouds passing through the sky. Notice sensations in your body, the places of tension, the places of ease, the subtle feelings you usually ignore. Notice the quality of the silence. Is it actually silent, or is it full of small sounds? What's there when you stop filling every moment with input? This isn't meditation in the spiritual sense. It's observation practice, training your attention to notice the internal landscape, the thoughts, the feelings, the patterns of your own mind. And as you do this, day after day, something shifts. You start to see yourself more clearly. The automatic patterns, the reoccurring thoughts, the habits of mind that shape your entire experience. You become the observer of yourself, and that observation, that awareness, is the beginning of wisdom.
The curiosity question. Throughout your day, whenever you notice something, ask yourself, why is it like that? Why does that tree lean that direction? Why does that person walk that way? Why does this room feel different from that room? Why do I feel tired right now? Why does this task frustrate me? Not to find answers necessarily, but to cultivate curiosity, to train your mind to question, to wonder, to dig deeper. This was Newton's practice. This was Darwin's practice. This was Leonardo's practice. The simple question, why? And when you ask it enough, you stop taking things for granted. You stop assuming. You start seeing, really seeing, the causes, the connections, the patterns.
The gratitude observation. At the end of each day, before sleep, observe 3 things you're grateful for. But here's the key. Be specific. Don't just say, my family, or my health. Observe a specific moment, a specific detail, something small and particular. The way sunlight came through the window at exactly 3 p.m. The specific warmth of your coffee this morning. The sound of laughter from your child. The smell of rain on pavement. The feeling of your feet on solid ground. Small things, observed deeply, appreciated fully. This trains 2 things at once, observation and gratitude. You learn to notice the good, the beautiful, the often overlooked gifts of ordinary life. And the more you do this, the more your brain starts spotting these moments throughout the day. You become attuned to beauty, to goodness, to the richness that's always been there but went unnoticed. These 7 practices, they're simple, almost embarrassingly simple. But simplicity doesn't mean ineffective. Do any one of these consistently for a month, and your awareness will shift. Do all of them, and you'll transform how you see the world. Because observation isn't a talent. It's not a gift. It's not reserved for geniuses. It's a practice, a discipline, a choice you make over and over to see what's actually there. And the beautiful thing, the truly beautiful thing, is that this choice is always available. Right now, this moment, every moment. You can begin. You can practice. You can see. And in seeing, you become more fully alive.
Seeing yourself. And now we arrive at the deepest practice of all, the ultimate act of observation, the one that requires the most courage, the most honesty, the most compassion. Seeing yourself clearly. All this time, we've been talking about observing the external world, details, patterns, behaviors, nature, people, things. But the most important observation, the one that changes everything, is internal. Seeing yourself as you actually are, not as you pretend to be, not as you wish you were, not as you fear you are, but as you actually, truly are. This is hard, perhaps the hardest thing a human being can do, because we spend so much energy maintaining an image of ourselves, a story, a narrative. I am this kind of person. I would never do that. I always do this. We build these stories carefully, protect them fiercely, and any evidence that contradicts them we ignore, dismiss, rationalize away. This is called ego, and the ego's primary job is not to see clearly, it's to maintain the story. But what if you could set that aside, just for a moment,
just long enough to truly observe yourself, not to judge, not to criticize, not to shame or blame, but simply to see. With the same curiosity you'd observe a sunset, or a stranger, or a work of art.
What would you notice? You might notice that you say you value honesty, but you tell small lies throughout the day. Convenient untruths, exaggerations, omissions. Not because you're a bad person, but because it's easier, more comfortable, less confrontational. You might notice that you say you're confident, but beneath that confidence is a constant hum of anxiety, a need for validation, a fear of judgment, always there, quietly shaping your choices. You might notice patterns you've carried for decades, ways of reacting that you learned as a child, defense mechanisms, coping strategies. Some of them still serve you. Some of them don't. You might notice that you're kinder to strangers than you are to yourself, that the voice in your head speaks in ways you'd never speak to another person, harsh, critical, relentless. You might notice contradictions, the gap between your values and your actions, between who you want to be and who you are in small, unguarded moments. This isn't comfortable. Self-observation rarely is, because it requires you to see past the story you tell yourself, to look at the truth beneath the narrative. But here's what's remarkable. Awareness is not judgment. Observing that you tell small lies doesn't make you a liar. It makes you human. And seeing it clearly, that's the first step toward choosing differently. Noticing anxiety beneath confidence doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're honest. And acknowledging it, that's how it loses its hidden power over you. Recognizing old patterns doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're awake. And awareness of a pattern is the beginning of freedom from it. The Buddhists have a concept, the witness, the part of you that can observe your own thoughts and feelings without becoming them.
You're not your thoughts. You're the one watching thoughts arise and pass. You're not your emotions. You're the one feeling emotions flow through you. You're not your patterns. You're the one becoming aware of them. This is the deepest level of observation, the awareness that can observe itself, the consciousness that knows it's conscious. And when you touch this, even for a moment, something shifts. You realize you have choice. You're not trapped in automatic reactions. You're not bound by old stories. You're not limited by who you've been. Because if you can observe yourself, you're already separate from what you're observing, already free. Try this now. Notice your thoughts, not the content of them, but the fact that they're happening, that there's a part of you aware of thinking, watching the mind do its thing. Notice your emotions, whatever you're feeling right now, comfort, perhaps, tiredness, curiosity. And notice that there's a you that's aware of these feelings, that's not drowning in them, but observing them. Notice your body, the sensations, the tensions, the ease. And notice the awareness that's noticing, the consciousness behind the experience. This is self-observation, and it's not about achieving some perfect, enlightened state. It's about being present to yourself, honest with yourself, compassionate with yourself. Because the truth is, you're not perfect. You never will be. You have flaws, contradictions, struggles, shadows. Everyone does. But you can see them clearly. You can observe them without judgment. You can understand them with compassion.
And in that seeing, in that understanding, you become free to choose, free to change, free to grow. Not by fighting yourself, not by forcing transformation, but by observing so clearly that change becomes natural,
inevitable, organic. When you truly see that a pattern doesn't serve you anymore, you stop doing it, not through willpower, but through awareness. When you truly see your own suffering, compassion arises naturally, not through effort, but through recognition. When you truly see yourself, acceptance becomes possible. Not the acceptance of resignation, but the acceptance of truth, the peace of seeing clearly. This is the ultimate observation, the one that all the others were preparing you for. To see the world, you must first see yourself. To understand others, you must first understand your own patterns. To be present to life, you must first be present to your own consciousness. And the gift, the profound, beautiful gift, is that this awareness is always here, always available, always waiting for you to turn your attention inward. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness watching them. You are not your story. You are the consciousness beyond the narrative. You are not even your identity. You are the observer, the witness, the awareness itself. And when you rest in that awareness, when you see from that place, everything changes. Not because the world is different, but because you're finally seeing it clearly, including yourself. And that clarity, that honest, compassionate, courageous observation of your own being is the deepest form of wisdom, the gift of seeing. And so we come to the end of this journey, though perhaps it's not an end at all. Perhaps it's a beginning of seeing, truly seeing. You've traveled through observation tonight, from the ancient survival skill of noticing to the Renaissance curiosity of Leonardo, to the detective's eye of Sherlock Holmes, to the scientific understanding of attention and awareness, to the practical exercises that train perception, and finally, to the deepest observation of all, seeing yourself. And now, as you lie here, perhaps you're starting to understand. Observation isn't just about noticing details. It's about being awake, present, alive to the reality that's always been here but somehow remained unseen. It's about reclaiming a superpower you were born with but forgot along the way. Because every human being starts as a master observer. Watch a baby. They notice everything. The play of light on a wall captivates them for minutes. The texture of a blanket, the sound of a voice, the movement of a hand, everything is novel. Everything is fascinating. Everything is worth observing deeply. Somewhere along the way, we lose this. We learn to categorize, to label, to move quickly from experience to experience, to see the surface but not the depth. And life becomes smaller, less vivid, less rich. We walk through our days in a kind of fog, moving from task to task, place to place, year to year, barely present, barely here. But it doesn't have to be this way. Observation is a gateway, a doorway back to presence, back to wonder, back to the richness that's always been here. Through observation, the ordinary becomes extraordinary. A simple meal becomes a symphony of flavors and textures. A walk becomes an adventure of light and shadow.
A conversation becomes a dance of nuance and meaning. A moment of silence becomes a universe unto itself.
Through observation, you become more creative. Because creativity isn't about inventing something from nothing. It's about seeing connections others miss, noticing patterns, combining existing elements in new ways. And all of that begins with seeing clearly. Through observation, you become wiser. Because wisdom isn't about knowing more. It's about understanding deeply. Seeing the patterns in human behavior, the cycles in nature, the truths hidden in plain sight. And that understanding comes from patient, sustained attention. Through observation, you become more peaceful. Because so much anxiety comes from living in your head, in stories about the future, in rehashed memories of the past. But observation brings you here, now, to what actually is. And in the present moment, observed clearly, there's peace. Through observation, you become more connected to others, to nature, to yourself. Because connection requires presence, and presence requires observation. Really seeing the person in front of you, really noticing the world around you, really being aware of your own inner landscape. This is the gift of seeing. Not just better vision, but a better life, a richer, deeper, more meaningful existence. And the remarkable thing, the truly remarkable thing, is that this gift is free. It doesn't cost money. It doesn't require special equipment. It doesn't demand that you travel somewhere else or become someone different. It only requires attention, choice, practice. The choice to look, to notice, to observe. The choice to pause instead of rush, to see instead of assume, to be present instead of distracted. The choice to treat every moment as an opportunity for awareness, every experience as a chance to see more clearly. You have seen this world 1,000,000 times. You've walked these streets, lived in this body, experienced these days, thought these thoughts.
But perhaps tonight, perhaps now, you'll truly observe it. For the first time, not with your eyes alone, but with your full awareness, your complete presence, your deepest attention. And in that observation, you might discover something profound, something that's been true all along, but remained hidden. The world is not what you thought it was. It's infinitely richer, more complex, more beautiful, more mysterious. Your life is not what you thought it was. It's fuller, deeper, more significant than you imagined. And you are not what you thought you were. You're not your thoughts, not your story, not your identity. You're the awareness behind it all, the consciousness that observes, the presence that witnesses, the eternal observer. And from that place of observation, from that deep, clear seeing, anything is possible. Change becomes natural, growth becomes inevitable, peace becomes available, wonder becomes constant. All because you chose to see. So as you rest here now, as your body settles deeper into stillness, as your mind begins to quiet and drift, I invite you to take this gift with you, the gift of observation, the art of seeing, the practice of presence. Tomorrow, when you wake, you'll have a choice. the same choice you've always had, but perhaps never fully recognized. You can go through your day as you always have, on autopilot, in the fog, seeing but not observing. Or you can wake up, pay attention, notice, observe.
You can see the light through your window as you've never seen it before. You can taste your morning coffee with full presence. You can notice the texture of the air against your skin. You can observe your own thoughts arising and passing. You can be here, fully, completely. And if you do this, if you choose observation, your life will transform. Not dramatically, not all at once, but gradually, gently, inevitably. Day by day, you'll see more, notice more, understand more, experience more. The world will reveal itself, layer by layer, detail by detail, pattern by pattern. And you'll realize that you've been given the most precious gift, not something you have to earn or deserve, but something you've always possessed. The power to see, truly see, with clarity and awareness and presence. This is the gift of observation, the superpower of genius, the doorway to wisdom. And it's yours, right now, this moment. Close your eyes now. Breathe. Let your body sink deeper into rest. Let your mind release into sleep. But before you go, before you drift away completely, observe one last thing.
Observe this moment, the stillness, the quiet, the peace, the awareness that's aware of it all. This is you, the observer, the witness, the one who sees. And tomorrow, when you open your eyes, you'll still be here, ready to see, ready to notice, ready to observe. The world is waiting. Reality is revealing itself. Life is unfolding in intricate, beautiful detail. All you have to do is look and let the world reveal itself, one detail at a time. Observe, notice, breathe, see, and sleep, knowing that when you wake, you'll see the world differently. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. You've remembered how to observe, and in that observation is everything. Long silence. Rest now. The practice continues. In dreams and in the morning light, when you open your eyes and truly see for the first time. Good night.